So I started working with wood 3 years ago after I decided on a whim to install a wood floor, and that went well enough that I said, hey, I kind of like doing all this trim work, so let me learn about woodworking. So I started showing up at these meetings because I realized, other than wood shop that I took 4 years ago in 7th grade, 40 years ago, 40 years ago, I didn't really know much. And it's been really, really great for me to come here, meet a lot of people, get a lot of help. So in particular, I want to thank the club, the people, in particular, the people that do all the work to make it happen, so I could learn. I want to thank Ross, who provided me some very useful input. Derek, Jim McCoy, who through some emails explained stuff to me, and in particular, Michael Mocho, a person that works with Chris, who was kind enough to come to my home. And when I had the cabinet, I'll show you in a minute, all dry fit, he actually showed me a lot of little nuances on how to measure that I had everything square, how to get through the next process, little details that are really, really important. And if we go to the
And how much did that cost you, Rich, to have Michael do that?
You should talk with Michael.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But let's just say, you know, he's an expert. He's been doing this for 30 years, right? The fact that he came over to my home, helped me for several hours, proved immensely useful. If you try and take a class someplace, let alone travel to it, that's a lot of money. So, you know, he's an expert, just like Chris is here. So anyway, setting that stuff aside. So here's a cabinet, right? It was my first serious cabinet. I milled it on a low-end planer. It's a slight modification of a woodsmith plan. So a comment I wanted to point out is my dad was real impressed with this because my dad's a tradesman. He came to this country as a tradesman. I did everything with sharp hand planes and a card scraper. In fact, Michael showed me how to use a card scraper. Okay, it was my first project of mortise and tenon joinery, and this is where talking with Derek really helped me out. Okay, then Michael showed me that my tenons were a little bit too tight and how to clean them up. All right, and then I did something which I haven't seen a lot of people do, which turned out to be for me incredibly useful, is I pre-finished everything. Everything is really nice and simple to take care of when it's in pieces. So if you tape up your tenons, you can finish things, okay? I did a shellac wash coat by 2 to 3 coats of gel varnish. And then I fit the drawer with a sharp hand plane, and Michael kind of guided me through how I would do all this. So I was real happy with this. Last view graph. Okay, so of course there was a mistake. So this is a floating shelf right here. There's a date all around that I got beautifully square. But my mistake was in the throes of glue up, of when I was finally putting everything together, this apron right here, the one that I originally set up, I put in backwards. So the part that should have been on the inside was on the outside. Well, of course, I realized this too late when the clamps were all there and everything, and there was a bit of a skinny 16th inch clamp. And so Michael showed up the following week and I showed him my goof. So he suggested a really nice fix. He gave me several suggestions. I was at some point willing to not do it, but he just, no, you got to do it, you got to do it. And so I said, okay. And so what I did was using a router plane, here's a blade, I set up some blocks and I just shaved off 1/4 of an inch, right? And with this router plane, it's just amazing how you could get that exactly 1/4 inch. And then I just milled and cut up a new piece and just sneaked up on a cut, and it dropped in there beautifully. So
what piece are you speaking of specifically?
This apron right here. You see how this is lighter right here than this? This was the fix. So what happened was there was a 16th inch gap here and here because the original piece that was perfectly fit, I put it in the inside out.
Tenons made the relief.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I just glued into part in the wrong direction. So to fix it, I just shaved off 1/4 inch, and I did. So how do you remove all that? I wasn't confident in my skills to do it with a router. And so I used a router plane, and you know, it only took about 30 minutes to get perfectly 1/4 inch, right? Right here.
What's on the other side of that?
Okay, so you put a thumb here, you put a thumb there, right? You tap this down, there's a bolt that tightens it up so you can precisely calibrate this, and then this whole bottom of this plane, that's what's resting here, and then you're just pushing this way.
Where's the blade?
Right here.
There's a little guy.
It's a tooth.
It's a tooth.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So some of these old hand tools really work well, and it was just the perfect simple fix and no dust, right? Anyway, thank you so much, and if you'd like to help out and volunteer, because for me, one of the reasons I was able to get some help and a lot of useful advice was I volunteered to help, and I got to meet some interesting people and get a lot of useful information along the way. And very much thanks to Michael, who that made a big difference, just knowing exactly what to do and what steps.
Can you hear me now? Okay. This carving made me think of a story I heard years ago. It was a couple down in Mexico touring a handmade door company. And this old guy kept making all these interesting carvings. It was beautiful. And they said, well, how do you know when you're done? He said, when they come take it away. Something else too. Yesterday, I walked into the other room. And when I got there, I remembered what I was there for. Happened to be the bathroom, but it counts. Okay. Let me start with this.
You can put that screen up if you'd like, Russ.
Okay, don't need it? All right. Okay, my little presentation is on what you can do with clamps. There's three ideas here, none of which were mine. I have stolen all of these. I like cheap. I like Harbor Freight clamps. Okay, I can buy 3 or 4 of these for the same price as I think they're Jet, there's Bessie, and there's other clamps. Very nice clamps. They have heavy duty bars. These do not. They have full height faces on them. These do not. But I can have 4 instead of just 1. So in that respect, I'm cheap. Some of the problems these have, the handles are small and slick. This idea came from a woodsmith shop. They said, well, go to your local big box store and buy some carpet tape. This is about 10 bucks. There's a piece of it. Pass that around if you're interested. It's kind of a rubberized product. So I said, okay, I can do that. So what you do, cut off a piece of it, and you have to figure out how what the circumference is. This happens to be 2 7/8. I've made the notation on that little cardboard there. And this is a peel and stick.
So you have to use math?
Yeah, you got to do some ciphering. That's where you got your gazinzas and your gamzadas. You know, 8 goes into 32 and gamzadas 4. That's ciphering. Yeah, you got to do the math. And I had that peeled back. There it goes. I tried to cheat like they do on the woodsmith shop and get this all prepped so I don't have to try to get hold of that corner. There it goes. And this stuff is sticky, this particular product. So you get it started on the handle, and let's use the old calibrated eyeball here, and just roll it around. If it doesn't come out quite right on the end, trim it. This gives you a better grip, especially when those clamps are low or laying down maybe on your bench top and you have to use your fingertips to get hold of it. Yeah. Worked great. Okay, so that one came from Woodsmith shop. Another problem that comes up is if you have a clamp and you've lost the rubber baby buggy bumpers on these things, either end. When I was a kid growing up in Illinois, I never dreamed that I would ever have to buy water. But we buy water. Save the caps. This idea I stole from Jerry Trujillo. Save the caps. A little bit of silicone. I'm not going to do this. I don't have the device with me, the tool. But just some silicone. Doesn't matter what color. Use a little bit of alcohol. Clean off this surface, the underside, this surface, and the top. Clean off the inside of the lid with alcohol. That gets rid of the dirt and the greases and the oils. Put a dab of silicone in here. That's half a dollop. Oh, God, yeah. Once you've got the silicone in there, keep your fingers out of it and press it on top. Then do the same with another piece of, oh, I had one. Where'd it go? Anyway, another top, another lid, and you're going to have to do a little bit of carving, because right back in here, this lid hits the back side of that clamp. Same concept. A little bit of silicone, put it in place, then put the two together, a little bit of tension on it to hold it overnight, and while it's there, add a little more silicone around the top and in this pocket. Let it set overnight. And when you're through with that, lo and behold, now you've got some cushions. Not as good as original, and you could also use blocks of wood if you wanted to, but there's a quick solution to a little bit of a problem. Another one of the problems with these particular clamps, you get out here, what happens to the bar? It bows, and because it's weak. But because you only have a contact point here, small area, I like these less expensive clamps, even though they only have the small contact area. They work fine for me. I'm cheap. And one last thing. This idea I stole from a TV show, or not, but from videos. There is a guy in Russia. I think his name is Andre, but it's MTM Wood, if you ever want to get online. He makes end-grained cutting boards, beautiful stuff. But he also has some very intricate patterns. They're geometric, and if you ever want to see some of those, get on the internet and look at the YouTube videos. But I got to watching things just beside what he was doing, and I got to looking at what does his shop look like. Well, he has a glue-up bench, and what he does, he made a couple of these. This is just, I believe it's probably 1.5 PVC, a couple pieces of plywood, of 2x4, and some screws. I made these to span the width of the bench that I use for glue up. And what happens with this, once you set these in place, this gives you enough elevation now you can get the head of your clamp underneath your project, clearance between the clamp and the bench. You also have the ability to clamp in all directions. You can use the same idea for painting, and this being PVC, type 2,
Schedule.
pardon?
20.
Probably Schedule 40. It's whatever you buy at Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever. Your type 2 tight bond does not stick to this stuff. There's some little bit of glue on here now from other projects I have used, and I have used it for elevating projects above the table so I can paint or finish them and use the clamps on them at the same time. So that's my presentation for clamping and ideas that I stole from somebody else. Feel free to steal them from me. Thank you.